Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we're going to be highlighting a phenomenal family companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, for the father Suhail ibn Amr, it does take time. The two children, you've got Abdullah and Abu Jandal. Abdullah was about 18, 19 years old when he embraced Islam at a very early stage, subhanallah, and his brother was barely a teenager. When Abdullah embraces Islam and is thinking about it, he has a conversation with Amr Khattab. And Umar Khattab at that time was not a Muslim, and he says that if you were to accept Iman, Islam, then you know what, you'll be my enemy. However, I will have respect for you. Subhanallah. His father tells him and tries to persuade him or dissuade him that you should not be embracing Islam. However, he accepts Islam and he migrates to Abyssinia. When he migrates to Abyssinia, at that time, Abu Jandal's Islam was very private. But when they hear that the rumors, the false rumors that people have embraced Islam in Mecca, he returns. When he returns, he was imprisoned by Suhail ibn Amr, his father. And he spends so many years, subhanAllah, in imprisonment. Eventually, at the Battle of Badr, he tells his father, "Oh, my father, at that time we have Abu Jandal also in prison." He says that at that time, "Oh, my father, let me join you and let me partake in the Battle of Badr with the Quraysh fighting against Muhammad." And his father was so pleased. He said, "Oh, okay, if that's the case, then join us." And what happens? He makes his way. Abu Jandal was not pleased that his brother has left Islam. And what happens at that time? He goes to the battlefield, and what he does, he switches sides. He goes to the battlefield, and from the Quraysh side, he walks to the Prophet ﷺ, to the Muslim side, and tells them that I'm going to fight with you, subhanAllah. Lo and behold, his father, Suhail ibn Amr, was the one that was imprisoned as a prisoner of war in the Battle of Badr. And imagine the son having to see the father that is kept as a prisoner. It's a long story, subhanAllah, but what we realize is that Suhail ibn Amr eventually pays his ransom, makes his way back to Mecca, and then the whole story. I mean, he was someone that was against the Muslim, but at least he was an honorable individual. After during the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, this is where things take a change. At that time, of course, Abdullah is with the Prophet ﷺ, and Abu Jandal is still in prison. And Suhail ibn Amr, the Quraysh allocate and designate him to be the spokesman for them. And what he does, he has a conversation with the Prophet ﷺ. And they write up a treaty, of course, the greatest victory, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. I'm not going to go into it, but it was at that time when he acknowledges and he does not accept and he does not acknowledge that the Prophet ﷺ is a prophet. Subhanallah. This is him during the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, within a year or two, subhanallah, during the conquest of Mecca, Suhail ibn Amr was marked for death. And what he does, he pleads with his sons and he says, "Abdullah, Abu Jandal, go and ask for my amnesty," subhanallah. The Prophet ﷺ gave him freedom and amnesty, subhanallah. And it is that time that you see Suhail ibn Amr slowly embracing Islam. Suhail ibn Amr with his sons, phenomenal, subhanallah. What you realize is the fight together and with the Muslims, subhanallah, and it is in the battle of Yamama that you see Abdullah passing away. Can you imagine the beloved son of Suhail ibn Amr? And they all fight together. During that time, what you see is Suhail ibn Amr and Abu Jandal, they come together and they cry when they see that the brother and the son has just been killed. And eventually, you find out that Suhail ibn Amr with his family, they all die in the plague of Amwas. A phenomenal individual, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, says that I saw Suhail ibn Amr at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, how he was at the Treaty of Hudaybiyah and not accepting and acknowledging the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then during the farewell Hajj, I saw him bringing the sacrificial animal for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when the hair of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was cut, I saw him taking the hair of the Prophet ﷺ, the clippings of the Prophet ﷺ, and putting it to his eyes, and he was in tears. How people changed when they saw the Prophet ﷺ and they fell in love with the Prophet ﷺ. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum.